sumusunod po sila. Para hindi na rin po sila masyado maabala.
And the COVID-19 risk classification for countries will be suspended by February 1st. Fully vaccinated travelers just need to present a negative swab test taken within 48 hours before departure.
The Philippines is still reeling from COVID-19, but it can now revive its ranking as one of the world's top destinations as it opens its borders to fully vaccinated tourists starting this month. Will travel and tourism bring the country back to life? We discuss in this episode of The Chiefs. Welcome to The Chiefs. I'm Robbie Alampay. Also with us are Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star, Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5, and Ed Lingao of One News. Chiefs, happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
And happy Chinese New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Happy siya masyado.
Anong balita? Anong binabantayan yung balita, Ami?
Start naman ng week the good news muna before the good news sa COVID front.
Ay, naku talaga.
Congratulations sa sports natin.
Oo, sa Malditas.
Yes, Malditas.
Yes.
Mabuhay!
Ayan na, good news. Good news.
Yan yung mga marites na kailangan ipagmalaki. Yung mga Malditas.
Yeah, they've given the word a new meaning.
Yes.
Inabita, ano pa? What about on the COVID front? Meron ba tayong mga developments?
Siyempre,
Best news din.
maganda din. The worst na, sabi ng Okta ha, mukhang the worst is over. Kaya nga na gano'n na tayo ngayon, simula bukas, di ba? Alert level 2 na. No more, no vax, no ride. Although yung iba nag-aalala, no? Yung iba na baka yung katabi nila infected.
Oh, speaking of ride, hindi lang papuntang trabaho. Now, kung saan ka na pwedeng makarating. And we are now starting to open our borders to tourism. And of course, yan po ang pag-uusapan natin. But before we get to that, just an announcement, get to know more about our presidential candidates and their platforms. Catch the Panata sa Bayan Presidential Forum in collaboration with kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas on Friday, February 4 at 9 a.m. here on Signal TV, channels 8 and 250. The forum will also be available on Signal Play. Kasama po dito diyan si Bok. Kasama rin po
Si
ako.
Robbie.
And please do join us. Now, let's begin to Choy. Now, ma'am, I think we're going back to alert level 2 and worldwide, dumadami na rin yung nagbubukas ng borders nila. Wala na po bang atrasan to? I mean, with everything that we're looking at?
Well, as of today, walang atrasan. Although if you recall, we were supposed to open noong December 1 from visa-free green countries, the time we had mga country classification. But biglang sumulpot yung variant of concern called Omicron. So we had to temporarily suspend because the health experts advised us to suspend. So as of now, well, wala pa naman. So all systems go.
Okay, so doon po sa systems na yun, obviously one of the biggest barriers was the quarantine rules for inbound passengers. What else do we need to know? And what exactly does that mean? Pagka all systems go, tumatanggap na kami ng mga what do people need to understand?
Ang una muna is starting tomorrow, all Filipinos can come quarantine-free, 48-hour RT-PCR, and kailangan ng self-monitoring for 7 days. Now, Feb 10, it should come from visa-free countries. Visa-free countries, again, 48-hour RT-PCR. And the usual, yung passport nila should be 6 months valid, etc. Tapos may ticket na may papunta to the next destination or coming home.
Okay, so...
Ano yung
go ahead.
Anong pinakamalaking concern ngayon? Considering na medyo mataas pa rin sa mga provinces, especially na malapit yun sa mga top tourist destinations natin. At saka yung iba, syempre, nag-aalala pa rin dahil yung mga marami dyan sa visa-free countries na yan Ngayon, meron pa rin silang surge of Omicron actually.
By the way, dapat fully vaccinated also. They were very strict about fully vaccinated. By the way, the suggestion, this came from actually the health experts. I thought at the start, before the IATF, we have it every Thursday. I was going to ask sana kasi at the time we still had country, yung mga green, yellow, red. So I was going to ask muna from visa-free green countries. But then it was the health experts that said that to no more country classification, and you just look at the vaccination status of the person. Kasi parang Omicron is the dominant variant already. And it's sila din mismo ang nagsabi, yung 48 hours before travel, ang negative RT-PCR.
Where do we expect many of these tourists to go? Yung mga foreign tourists, no?
Well,
especially considering what Typhoon Odette wrought on, say, Siargao, Cebu, Bohol, and these other popular destinations.
Actually, we've been talking nonstop to our tourism stakeholders. Don't expect na, let's say, Feb 10, dadagsayan. Hindi eh. Kasi for example, for leisure travelers, normally, ano pa yan it will take about 2 to 3 months pa, or baka April, May, or June, because diba they still have to magbubuk pa yan ng leave, vacation leave, etc. Yung expected probably to come would be for business, who really have to come here, or probably mga balikbayans. But other than that, when I was talking to our tourism stakeholders, it will take quite some time pa rin. Because even from where they're coming from, may kanya-kanyang restrictions also. Some are less restrictive, some are, Our number one tourist, kung pag-uusapan ng visa-free, would be Korea. Number one naman siya talaga. Number 3 is the US, number 4 is Japan. So yun ang mga visa-free countries natin. So, but then, like for example, in Korea, may 10-day quarantine pa rin, any returning resident. Even in Japan, may 10-day quarantine. But some of when I was talked to the tourism stakeholders, meron yung mga iba, okay sa kanila kahit na kasi anyway, home quarantine naman daw, nasa bahay sila, they can work from home. But of course, it won't be like before na it's easy. But again, this will take time because ngayon pa lang naman nagbukas. But ang magandang news lang is a lot of parang the tour operators, the travel agencies were telling me, nagulat daw sila, ang dami na nag-email asking for quotes, quite happy. Kasi they're excited to come. But again, hindi yan agad dadating Feb 10. It would probably take time.
Ma'am, I'll be the killjoy here. Sabi nga ninyo, some of the other countries like Japan and Korea, they still have quarantine procedures to follow for arriving people. And these are countries which have much better facilities. They have better equipment and more personnel manning their health facilities. By any chance, is it possible that we may be putting too much of the burden on the honesty of people to self-monitor themselves once they arrive here? Wala ba pong walang government monitoring at the very least, government monitoring?
First of all, Ed, the one who suggested this were the health experts themselves. We have Dr. Salvania, Dr. Ana Ong Lim. They were the ones who suggested this. Normally, usually yan pag sa IATF, ang hirap ng balanse ng health and safety with the economy. Yeah. But this time, they were the ones who said that since Omicron is already the dominant variant, and also we are fully, especially yung mga vulnerable natin ay bakunado na rin, and continuous pa rin. With the terms of tourism workers kami naman, we've been vaccinating as early as last year, July. Probably majority of all the tourist destinations are already 100% vaccinated. And we are now in our booster program. So tuloy-tuloy naman. Of course, our concern is the safety of our tourism workers. And again, when I say tourism, hindi ibig sabihin yung nagtatrabaho lang sa hotel. Kasama, practically, when you talk about Boracay, we gave vaccines thanks to Sec Galvez and Sec Vince. We gave vaccines to probably the whole of Boracay, including the residents. Kasi hindi mo pwedeng hiwalay yan yung hotel lang, So lahat halos. And then in fact, we even gave the vaccines for 12 to 17 and then now yung boosters.
Ano kaya yung mga babawal doon? Halimbawa, will physical distancing still be enforced? Halimbawa, against large gatherings?
That's why nga Ma'am Ami, we always remind the LGU. Kasi kami, ang mandate namin talaga yung mga hotels. Kasi yun, stricto tayo dyan. In fact, pag may nahuhuli kaming hotel na walang physical distancing, or for example, yung waiter nila hindi nagmamask, yung minimum health and safety protocols, agad yun may notice to explain. But dito talaga, will come to play yung galing ng LGU. The LGU has to be with us. For example, like let's say in Baguio, magaling si Mayor Magalong, very strict siya. You can see I just came from there kasi yung ang ganda ng Baguio ngayon, it was the first we had a program there that was of course DOH and NTF. Yung mga butika doon like Mercury Drug or Watson's, pwede ka lang pumasok at magpa-booster. In fact, even Mayor Magalong opened this also to tourists. So kunyari, gusto mo. Oo, so we hope to have this in all the major cities also. So parang it's easier, may access to vaccines. So like a good example would be Mayor Magalong nga. In fact, a lot of people already texted me na in 10 minutes they were vaccinated. May booster sila. So we are really working, of course, with the DILG and of course with the different tourist destinations na yung ma-implement yung health and safety protocols.
Secretary, of course, we're not the only country trying to reopen and to lure the tourists. Thailand has reopened. Many countries in the region are looking into it. Ang Pilipinas po, what's our pitch to tourists, especially anticipating na tataas ang market?
We always say it's still more fun, but it's safe. It's safe. I don't know actually the tagline, or it's more fun with you. Actually,
Kasi you may be having too much fun.
Correct.
Forgetting
it's more fun with you. We would always say, di ba, parang whenever you travel, you want to travel with your family or with your loved ones. Or in my case, I like to travel with my dog. But she doesn't like, di ba, it's more fun with you. But yun na nga based on we had 2 surveys with the AIM and Guide to the Philippines, ang hinahanap talaga ng mga turista is how safe they will be. So talagang it was very important for us to really make sure that yung health and safety protocols natin in place. In fact, the WTTC, the World Travel and Tourism Council, that's the only private sector na biggest yung around the world. They gave us the WTTC Safe Travel Stamp. Pumasa yung ating ano. But of course, importante din talaga yung cooperation ng LGU.
Okay.
And dapat hindi din talaga magbubukas. Like just today, parang akong hotline, may nagsumbong sa akin na, ma'am, may nagbukas na hotel pero hindi siya accredited by the DOT. That's quite important. It's not only in the law of Tourism Act of 2009, but sa IATF lalo na ngayon because they have to follow minimum health and safety protocols. At libre naman ang accreditation.
May comparisons ba tayo ng safety with, for example, our Southeast Asian neighbors? Kasi dun sa Bloomberg, baba tayo sa resilience, ano? And you mentioned Mayor Magalong, pati siya na COVID, ha?
Oo nga. Because of the Omicron, he texted me nga the other day. Kaya ako mismo, I'm in isolation again.
Yes.
Because I was with him last Friday. Buti na lang fully vaccinated and with booster.
Okay.
So how do we compare with the rest of Southeast Asia?
Actually, as I've said, yung ating health and safety protocols sa ating mga accommodation establishments, tourist transport, etc., kaya tayo nabigyan ng World Travel and Tourism Safe Travel Stamp because it passed their standards, world standards. Kasama doon ang health and safety. Yung gaya ng sinabi ni Robbie, Thailand will reopen tomorrow. Malaysia is already actually opening also to fully vaccinated. In Vietnam, mga February, magbubukas na rin sila. Unti-unti na nagbubukas. But admittedly, ang Asia ang last to open. Okay. Halos nagbukas na yung buong mundo except for Asia. But I have to remind everybody, hindi ibig sabihin na we're accepting na free for all na. we still have to follow minimum health and safety protocols.
I was
Yung lalo
going
na
to-
yung wearing of the mask.
I was
Oo.
going to ask nga po,
In terms-
what does that mean in terms of the options for accommodation of tourists coming in? Hotels lang po ba yan? Or daming, alam naman natin, marami
Well, ang
nag-Airbnb
mandate
dito.
namin kasi is really the hotels eh. That's why we have to work closely with the LGU. Hotels under the Department of Tourism, but other aspects that would be under the LGU.
Okay,
But
so yung
those-
maliliit na mga nagpaparent, mga nag-Airbnb and so on, they
Dapat
are...
bawal eh. We actually also accredit them already.
Okay.
Bawal. That's up to the LGU.
Okay.
Okay, in terms of economic recovery on the tourism side, how soon do you figure we'll be able to get back to pre-pandemic levels?
Ma'am Lucy, it's quite hard to say kasi it's quite hard to give a number, but to give you an idea kung ano yung nawala sa tourism. Noong 2019, tourism contributed 12.8%. Noong 2020, because of the pandemic, bumagsak siya to 5.4% of the country's gross domestic product. Ang tourism employment was 5.7 million. And because of the pandemic, bumagsak siya by 1.1 million. So bumaba siya to 4.6 million. So 1.1 million jobs were affected. So when we finally told our stakeholders that we were going to reopen, syempre masaya sila. Kasi marami sa ating mga stakeholders, of course the hotels remained open because they converted into quarantine hotels. But marami sa ating mga tour operators, travel agents, tour guides, sarado na sila close to 2 years this March. So syempre masaya sila kasi finally magkakatrabaho na sila.
Okay, Secretary Burns, marami pa po kaming tanong. Please stay with us. We'll just need to take a
Kala
break.
ko, wala na.
Hindi po, meron pa. Huwag kayong mag-alala. Presidential elections naman, pag-uusapan natin pagbalik nyo. Steady lang po kaya. We will need to take a break. Please stay with us. The Chiefs will be right back.
Welcome back to the Chiefs here on One News. We continue our discussion with Tourism Secretary Berna Romulo Puyat. Ma'am, so far we've been talking about people coming in from abroad for business or for tourism. What about mga local tourists naman? Paano naman kami?
Oo.
How's it looking for us?
Well, when you look at the 12.8% of the gross domestic product, 10.8% came from domestic tourism. Like noong 2019, though we had 8.26 million foreign tourists coming to the country, though that was a record, we had 110 million domestic trips. So really, the Philippines is really more reliant on domestic tourism pa rin. Like last December, a lot of the tourist destinations were already accepting Vax card in lieu of a negative RT-PCR. Naghigpit na lang sila nung nag-alert level 3 tayo ngayon. So we're hoping na since bumaba na yung ating alert level 2 na tayo, that they will be less restrictive. But of course, because of the local government code, this is really up to the LGUs. But of course, nakakaawa, marami tayong tourist destinations like sinabi yung Siargao, Bohol, Cebu na apektuhan ng Typhoon Odette. So, nagdagsaan talaga ngayon sa Boracay yung mga bukas around Calabarzon, Baguio. In fact, Mayor Magalang was telling me the number of people that came noong 2019 sa Baguio were the same as 2021. Ganong karami ang dumating sa Baguio. But yun pa rin, we always say kahit na fully vaccinated or with booster or negative RT-PCR, please follow minimum health and safety protocols.
Of course, the other thing that Ami already pointed out kanina is that there are big parts of the country that are not as well vaccinated as Metro Manila. For example, BARM, I think, was still at 9% or 10%
Yeah, but
as of the other
it's not
the other
naman a
week.
tourist destination.
Ay,
What we
maganda rin
are,
ano.
what we check naman kami personally we really vaccinated our all the tourist destinations sa Palawan, lahat. Ang kulang ko na lang would be Siargao, but we were supposed to reach already 100% pero unfortunately na Typhoon Odette. So we hope to continue when everything is better with our vaccination.
Kamusta
program.
pala po ang Siargao? I mean, both in terms of COVID, in terms of the infrastructure also that was damaged there.
Yes,
The
they're
airport
still
especially.
closed for tourism, and we're just waiting. They're still closed for tourism. We are in touch with the Department of Labor and Employment, so we can give also financial assistance and see how we can help yung mga naapektuhan doon sa Siargao.
Kasi yung mga estimate dun it might take daw 3-4 years for it to return to pre-Odette state,
na,
no?
Nakakaawa talaga.
Yeah,
yes.
so I'm just wondering kasi nagiging number 1 destination
Yes.
na siya for
In fact,
surfers, for beach
yes.
lovers. So
Yes.
how will this impact on them now that foreign tourism is opening up again?
Unfortunately,
for us?
they're closed even for domestic tourists as of today. So we hope to be able na they can get back on their feet. We're working with the different government agencies so that we could give financial assistance or even the housing or even yung meron tayong credit. We've already asked SB Corps. Meron tayo kasing 6 billion sa SB Corps. Yung 2 years to pay, 0 interest, low collateral, kasi naghahanap sila. But all of them, the tourism stakeholders were saying, kasi prior to the announcement of the reopening, walang humihiram. And then when I would ask them, napakaganda ng rates, bakit hindi kayo humihiram? Hindi daw sila hihiram until magbukas. Oo, so we're hoping, and then this will be extended also to those affected by Typhoon Odette, yung program na yon. Kasi 2 years to pay, so there's a grace period, 0 interest, 0 collateral. So we're doing our best and working with other agencies.
Secretary, after 2 years of the pandemic, saan yung nakikita niyong long-term damage, yung pinakamahihirapan niyatang mag-recover? Halimbawa, ano yung impact niya sa yung mga nagbo-book ng tours? Kasi ngayon, dire-diretso na yung mga tao sa online.
Actually, when I was talking to the travel agencies, a lot want to still book with them. Kasi gusto nila may nag-aalaga sa kanila just in case may emergencies. Kasi the tour operators, the travel agencies, they take care of the travelers from start to finish. So iba-iba. Of course, the younger ones, they like to book on their own, but the older ones, they prefer to go through a travel agent.
Walang ibang areas na na medyo nakikita mong medyo mahirap mag-recover. Considering in the past 2 years.
Well, sayang because revenge travel nga sana yung talagang naging malaking tama sa atin yung Typhoon Odette, and it practically hit all our major tourist spots. But in terms of adjustment sa health and safety protocols, nakapag-adjust yung ating mga hotels naman with regard to this. But yun lang talaga. I think the biggest was, we thought that the pandemic was really the worst, but yun na nga na-wipe out because of Typhoon Odette. But
Paano yung mga quarantine hotels? Kunyari lang, biglang, God forbid, mag-surge ulit. I mean, yung mga yun ba, biglang babalik na naman sa quarantine hotel?
For mga Filipinos, those unvaccinated who are coming will still have to quarantine for 5 days kung unvaccinated. So
these hotels will still be there as quarantine
even with
hotels?
quarantine naman, it was always voluntary, not mandatory. So when we asked the OFOA, may mga 10% pa raw na unvaxxed na umuuwi from the OFWs. 10% of those arriving, so they will have to stay in a quarantine hotel. But of course, the hotel industry naman, they're quite happy kasi 'di ba, they were built naman as regular hotels and for business travelers. So a lot of them are waiting to go back to normal.
Secretary, gaya na nga po sabi nyo, sa totoo lang, Asia is actually behind in the world. We're the last continent to really reopen. Thailand will reopen, Malaysia will reopen, we're reopening. But are we therefore just doing this kanya-kanya or is there a regional campaign?
Yes. In fact, I met with the ASEAN tourism ministers. And then yun na nga we were all talking about by the way, Cambodia rin. We were all talking about lifting of travel restrictions. But ako, as I've said, we always follow the doctors. Kasi at the end of the day, we do not want to compromise health and safety. But yun na nga, it's really balancing And as I've said, like this yung lunchtime nga kasama ko si Dr. Edsel Salvania. Siya yung nag-i-explain regarding the decision. And I see online she's one of our IATF also health experts, si Dr. Limpin. She's also one of them. They have been guiding us throughout all this pandemic. Kaya kami mismo ako nagulat because they're normally syempre they're very strict as they should be. But now they were saying na it's about time.
Nabanggit niyo po kanina na maraming LGUs, yung pagbabakuna, it's becoming more available. But in the middle of the pandemic, a lot of people were able to go out of our country, were able to compare notes. And one of the things that isang insight ng maraming tao is, pagka turista ka sa ibang bansa, halimbawa sa Europe, because a lot of private establishments will require for you to have a fresh RT-PCR test or a fresh antigen test within 24 hours or within 48 hours kung gusto mong lumabas sa gabi. Meron po ba tayong infrastructure for that?
Wala naman yung, for example, they want to dine in, kailangan mag-RT-PCR. Wala naman. I think under IATF, kailangan lang fully vaccinated.
Okay. Okay.
But in fact, when I went to, I was in London last November, yun lang talaga well, that time, they just really want vaccination. And then people were wearing, well, not in London, but in certain, when I went to LA, for my personal leave, kinukwento nga kay Ma'am Lucci, yung personal leave ko, naging work pa rin. But people were wearing naman masks. And in fact, where we would go, talagang very strict yung mask wearing, and you can only remove your mask if you're actively eating.
Okay.
And then, they ask for the yellow card talaga.
Speaking of LA and abroad, yung mga events ngayon, nakikita namin talagang grabe na, punong-puno na yung mga stadium. How far are we? I mean, this is not necessarily completely sa DOT. Of course, events, MICE, especially a part. How far are we from what you've seen in other countries?
I can't know because at that time when we were there, yun na nga, everybody was wearing masks. But I think talagang if we are guided also, di ba, lagi naman sinasabi ng mga doktor, yung mask wearing talaga. We have to. In terms of the MICE event, of course, we have had since September of 2020, mga hybrid events we've already been encouraging. Pero kailangan yung, I'd like to think that our MICE events the audience has become bigger. So we not only have face-to-face, but we also have online. But yung sobrang daming tao, I guess we just still have to be guided by our health experts.
Okay. Well, Tourism Secretary Bernard Romulo Puyat, ma'am, maraming salamat for joining us tonight, and it's good to see you back. It's good to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Salamat.
Salamat po. And now joining us is the President of the Philippine College of Physicians, Dr. Maricar Limpin. Doc, maraming salamat for joining us tonight, and welcome back to the Chiefs.
Good evening, Doc.
Magandang gabi po.
It's good to see you again, Doc. Doc, yun nga in a day or two, open borders na tayo ulit. Wala nang quarantine for those arriving basta fully vaccinated at basta nakapag-RT-PCR ka 2 days before your flight. The medical community, are you one with regard to this position of the government?
Siyempre, no, kaming mga nasa medical field, we are a little bit apprehensive. But we do understand yung need na medyo mag-relax na rin tayo, particularly now that we are seeing lesser intensity of the disease, no, with COVID-19. And I think this is brought primarily by the higher number of vaccinated among our people.
Yeah. Pero ma'am, specifically kasi basta fully vaccinated ka and you arrive here with your negative RT-PCR, you can just go into self-monitoring. So parang kanya-kanya na lang yan at honesty system na lang na talaga nag-monitor ka. Wala ho bang isn't that by any chance, isn't that putting too much trust on people to monitor themselves and not to go out if they feel symptoms?
Question.
Well, I think yun naman mga travelers natin, these are coming from the other parts of the world. Kung doon sa ibang bansa, pag magkaroon sila ng symptoms, immediately they will report, no? So we would expect that they will be doing the same. Medyo may pagkakaiba lang talagang Pinoy, di ba? Pagdating dito,
iba yung patakaran. Parang pupunta na poblasyon.
No, doon sa ibang bansa, mas masunurin sila, pero pagdating dito hindi. But I think we have to remind already our kababayan that that their behavior should remain the same, whether nandoon sila sa country kung saan sila galing, no, and also in the Philippines, kasi pare-parehas lang naman din ng sitwasyon natin eh.
Meron nagsasabi na dapat hindi muna daw masyadong i-ease yung quarantine requirements dahil nga Omicron has shown na a strong tendency to infect even the fully vaccinated and boosted. Ano po yung masasabi niyo doon to allay the fears?
Yes, fortunately kahit na that is true, no, na mas higher ang transmissibility, no, compared to the other variants. But ang nakita kasi natin ay less ang severity ng disease. Therefore, for somebody who is already vaccinated, medyo hindi kami masyadong natatakot that they will have severe disease. So, yung natin na a person will get severe and then eventually die much lower compared doon sa Delta variant. So, doon sa Delta variant definitely medyo talagang takot kami, pero dito may konting takot, pero after seeing so many people who got COVID-19 nitong nakaraang weeks, parang ang feeling ko we might see probably hopefully the end of the pandemic, no, but we still do not know kasi in Denmark may mga reports din na like let us say ng yung stealth variant ng Omicron na medyo nagko-cause ng death, but hopefully dito sa atin iba yung situation.
So right now, our vaccination rate is still, well, not rate, but how many percent of us are vaccinated? We're still at 54%, right?
50%,
yeah. So what confidence do we have given that it hasn't really risen remarkably in the last couple of weeks when Omicron was at its peak, no? How confident are we that we will still be able to vaccinate, toward the target that we had set for ourselves? Kasi ngayon na naglulusan up na, I'm sure people are saying, well, we're okay now, why be vaccinated? What do you say to that?
Yeah, Lucy, talking to my colleagues in the different parts of the country, majority of the big cities where probably people will be traveling to, medyo mataas ang vaccination rate natin. Quite similar to what we see in NCR, but probably not to the percentage ng NCR, no? Not 90%, maybe around 70-80% doon sa mga big cities. I think ang malaki malaking chunk of the unvaccinated will be in the far-flung areas. And kami dito sa PCP, we already have a program wherein we are trying to reach to these people, because the only reason some of them could not be vaccinated is because there is also difficulty in traveling, no? And also some, problems with regards to resources, so they could not go to the centers where the vaccination is supposed to be held. So what we are trying to do, we have a program wherein we bring the ones who are going to vaccinate them, and bring the vaccines to the people.
To them.
Yes, so para mas
Dr.
medyo ma-encourage natin magpakuna yung mga tao.
Dr. Limpin, speaking of when you say far-flung areas, are there particular regions that are outliers in terms of being areas of concern?
Yeah, actually halos lahat ng probinsya, yung lahat ng mga malalayo talagang lugar, lalong-lalo na yung mga isla, no, sila yung talagang hindi na aabot ng mga vaccination natin, yung program. So ito yung tina-target naman ng mga kasamahan namin na mga doktor, para sa ganon masiguro natin na maaabot din natin sila, no? Kasi some of them simply because they could not go to the areas where the vaccination is supposed to be held.
So it's simply a logistical matter. But once they get to these islands especially, wala namang resistance. Acceptance is high.
Well, nung umpisa, medyo may konting resistance, and some of them medyo cultural ang dahilan, no, ng hesitancy. And then so pinapaliwanagan naman sila ng mga doktor, and kung napapaliwanagan naman ay na-encourage naman silang mabakunahan. But ang problem lang talaga dito, medyo mabagal yung procedure na ito, no, kasi you have to really go to them. No, we have to look into hiring a bus para yung bus na yon dala yung mga doktor, no, dala yung mga bakuna, at maabot natin sa kanila. So actually maganda yung reception ng mga tao dahil ang feeling nila they felt some importance, no, na nilalapitan talaga sila ng mga doktor.
Doctor, simula bukas yung no vax, no ride lifted na. Are you also recommending na yung vaccination requirements sa mga commercial establishments i-lifted? Kasi maraming mga lugar na gano'n na they are asking for vaccination cards for entry.
Yeah, alam mo, yung no vaccination, no entry has really worked wonders, no, particularly in the provinces. Kasi marami ang nagpabakuna dahil hindi sila makapasok doon sa malls. So I think baka that is one strategy that might be reconsidered, no, by our government. Hindi ko lang alam kasi of course, no, may mga human rights issue, no, na binabanggit ang ating mga kababayan, no, and which we also have to think about, no. So I think i-weigh lang natin which one will weigh more, kung mas magiging maganda ba ang effect nung magkaroon tayo ng patuloy na policy, no, vaccination, no entry, or maybe we can lift it up. It all depends doon sa situation, and it all depends upon the area.
Ma'am, you say it might be reconsidered. Are you saying that there is discussion about this, of this being enforced or reinforced?
Hindi naman. I'm not saying that there is a discussion about this. I think the more the common statement or position will always be na i-lift na yung no vaccination, no entry policy.
Doc, curious lang ako, and even Secretary Berna said this, no? Kayo yung doctors were the most conservative when it came to opening up, okay? Pero now, all of a sudden, it seems you're the ones who are quite open to the idea of opening up. What was it exactly that made you kind of like turn around almost 180 degree, no? That you're so confident. Where did that confidence come from?
No, actually, lahat-lahat kami, no, yung mga infectious disease experts as well as kami mga pulmonologists, we really sat down and talk about it. And we discuss what we have seen and observed nitong nakaraang surge, no, with this Omicron. Actually, pababa pa lang tayo, no. So but we are there in the surge yet. But yun nga, yun na notice namin, medyo mas although marami ang nagkaroon ng infection, but really majority of the people who got infected were mild and moderate, no? Moderate na yung pinaka more severe. The ones that got really severe and were admitted in the hospital, kadalasan they are unvaccinated. So yung policy na fully vaccinated, I think we all believe it makes a lot of sense, no, as long as fully vaccinated. And then the possibility na they will be bringing along the infection, as long as when they come in, they have a negative RT-PCR 48 hours, and then we make them responsible. Kasi sometimes, you know, you have to give public health responsibility to the people. Yun yung dapat na ibinibigay natin na message sa mga tao. Lahat po tayo, we need to have some kind of a public health responsibility. Kaya pag may naramdaman, i-report na ho kaagad. And then not to hesitate to probably have themselves isolated, no, quarantine, para sa ganon, hindi na sila makahawa.
Pero ma'am, hindi
So,
ba dapat...
ibig sabihin nito, pati ba mga, kunyari, face-to-face classes, are we thinking of resuming that? Are we ready for that? I mean, how ready are we? Is it to the extent that we can now even really talk about bringing the kids back to school?
Kung vaccinated na yung children, no? Remember, we are going to just start with the vaccination program of the 5 to 11. So as long as vaccinated na, I think we can allow the children to go out. Pero I hope sana right now, yung mga nakikinig na mga magulang, wag muna ninyong ilabas yung mga anak ninyo. Although narinig ko na papayagan na yung mga bata ding lumabas, no? Learning from the Omicron experience, we have seen yung marami-raming mga bata ang nagkasakit ng COVID just because they were allowed to go out and hindi pa naman sila vaccinated. So I hope na with the vaccination program, yung problem natin with the kids, maaalis po natin yon, and therefore they can already go out, no, because they are already protected, no, from at least the severe COVID. Luchi and everyone, pinaka-importante kasi dito, although nililesen natin, nilo-lower down natin yung restrictions, very important na iparating natin sa mga tao that they need to observe yung wearing of the mask and the maintaining the physical distance. So even if face-to-face tayo, Luchi, no, yung mga klase, ibig sabihin hindi rin pa pwede yung katulad ng maramihan in one room, no? So kailangan pa rin nilang ma-maintain yung physical distance nila.
Dr. Maricar, beyond COVID, di ba? Ngayon, kampante na yung mga tao, or they're starting to relax, they're starting to make plans. Some people are making plans to go to tourism. Some people are starting to make plans to go back to the office. Some people are starting to make plans kahit kumain man lang sa labas and so on. Tumataas din po ba ang people making appointments back with their doctors? And are we noticing beyond COVID? Are you noticing what people are consulting about beyond COVID?
Beyond COVID, ang dami na namin ever since, no? Even with this surge, we have had so many consultations outside of the COVID. So marami na kaming mga consultations, non-COVID cases, no? Yung usual na nakikita namin sa clinics, bumabalik naman ho sila. In fact, before magkaroon ng surge, talagang puno rin yung mga hospitals dahil sa non-COVID cases. Nabago lang entirely kasi masyadong marami yung mga COVID cases. So, napilitan kaming medyo maghinay-hinay sa admissions ng mga non-COVID. But now, patients are already back.
So, safe yun, doctor, to go back to the hospitals? Kasi yung ibang tao natatakot, for example, magpa-x-ray, magpa-testing ng puso, baka kahit dumikit sa kahit anong machine sa hospital in particular. Safe ba yun? Saka yung mga kwarto ng mga doktor, usually, maliliit, saka dikit-dikit yung mga tao. How safe is it to go back to the hospital?
So far, well, I can only speak doon sa mga clinic kung saan ako naroroon, So, kahit medyo maliit yung clinic, isa-isa lang naman ang tinatanggap namin sa loob ng clinic. So, hindi naman talaga madami, Ang medyo marami will be yung sa waiting area, In heart center, hindi ka naman allowed na masyadong marami doon sa waiting area. So, meron kaming lugar din where people are waiting, na kumaunti yung nandoon sa clinic na naghihintay. So once medyo kumaunti na yung nandoon sa clinic, paakyatin naman yung iba. So the hospitals have different strategies that are being employed para masiguro lang na hindi masyadong maraming tao ang naghihintay doon sa labas ng mga clinics. Tapos i-ano ko lang Ami, talaga namang pagdating doon sa mga ospital, even sa mga x-rays, wag ko kayong masyadong matakot kasi palagi pong nililinis na sa palagay ko pinakamagandang disinfection strategy na ginagawa yung mga ospital, So mas mahirap pa nga po yung doon sa labas, kasi medyo hindi tama yung the way people are disinfecting the surfaces, But in the hospital, malinis na malinis po yan.
Okay, so we're also seeing more people now going back to the hospitals for checkups and consultation. But what is the future of telemed? Is that, do you think that it will also be more of a norm now? Or is it still better to actually do face-to-face?
Alam mo, depende
in the near future,
Lucy, it depends upon the individual, May mga pasyente kami na very comfortable with with telemedicine, teleconsult. So okay lang 'yon, But of course, para sa akin isang doktor, ay mahirap minsan yung gumawa ng physical examination. That is something na hindi namin makukumpleto, whenever we do teleconsult. And sometimes there are diseases that really needs the doctor to do the physical examination. But kung kunyari follow-up lang, Lucy, I think kayang gawin ng telemedicine. And I think telemedicine, we have been talking about telemedicine for so long, but this is the only time when we were able to really see it in full execution. So, kaming mga doktor, lalo na ako, medyo parang na-realize ko, this is something that we should have started a long time ago. And it can help, yung mga lugar natin na walang doktor, telemedicine can actually be used, para matulungan natin yung mga kababayan natin na hindi nakakaabot ng doktor.
Yeah. Pero ma'am, kasi tanda ko kasi ang parating una pinapagawa sa akin ng doktor pag check-up, stethoscope tapos ubo. Hindi mo pwedeng gawin sa telemed.
Oo, hindi pwedeng gawin yun sa telemed. But like for me, when I talk to you, kahit ngayon, we have a very keen eye. So alam namin kung nahihirapan kang huminga, kung kinakapos ka ng paghinga. So,
ako yun.
hindi makakaila ang isang tao kahit nasabihin pa niyang okay ho ba kayo, sigurado ba kayo kasi parang hindi kayo maayos ang paghinga ninyo habang tinitignan ko kayong nagsasalita. So that is something na siguro we have actually developed through the years.
Doc,
Right.
ito, curious talaga actually. I was speaking with Joy about this yesterday. Parang bigla lang pumasok sa isip namin. In these 2 years, kung kahit wala kang symptoms, di ba? Ayun lang naman habol natin for the past 2 years. Basta wala akong symptoms, di ba? And I'm not consulting. But 2 years locked up inside the house, hindi ka naaarawan, and a lot of people are deprived of exercise. What are the things that you would remind, tingnan nyo, dahil 2 taon din tayo nakakulong, what could have happened to us over these 2 years that we should be conscious of? Maliban sa gaining weight, maliban sa gaining weight.
Yeah, maliban sa gaining weight, wala kayong exercise, and this we have seen in so many individuals, so many Filipinos. Ang kadalasan na reklamo nila, Doktora, bakit ko parang mahina ako ngayon? Doktora, bakit hindi ako makalakad ng malayo? No? Maglakad ako, sandali lang, medyo pagod ako. So that is actually a sign of lack of exercise endurance. No? Kaya kadalasan lahat ng pasyente namin, when we talk to them even by teleconsult, sinasabi namin na kailangan ninyo mag-exercise kahit nandiyan lang ho kayo sa loob ng bahay ninyo. Paikot-ikot to kayo. Ilang minuto ang kailangan gawin. Kasi sasabihin nila, ilan ho bang steps ang kakailanganin? Hindi ho steps ang pinag-uusapan na natin dito. You need to walk like let us say for 20 minutes, 30 minutes because yung 20-30 minutes will be enough walking na mangyayari to improve the exercise endurance ng isang tao.
Malaki-laking bahay yun, Doc.
Ay, hindi.
Balik na.
Maraming maliit ang case, no? Talagang sasabihin talaga ng mga tao na doktora naman, nahihilo na ako sa paikot-ikot. Pero sasabihin ko talaga na medyo kailangan ho ninyong gawin yun eh. Huwag ko kayo mag-alala. Importante ito kasi para hindi kayo madaling mahapo.
Yes, Doc. Nagdadahilan lang ako kasi hindi ako nag-exercise eh. Minado naman ako doon eh.
Well, anyway, unfortunately, that's all the time we have. Dr. Maricar Limpin, always a pleasure. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Doc. Ingat po.
Thank you, ma'am.
And Kung Hei Fat Choi.
Thank you, Doc.
Stay safe.
Okay.
And Happy New Year. Kung Hei Fat Choi.
Okay, Pachoy.
That's all for this edition of the Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. Before we go, a reminder to our viewers, mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
Hi, Mami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5.
I'm Ed Lingao, and we are One News.